What's a long time? We've got to wait for a minute.
Gives me time to get us going.
Good evening, members, and welcome to our 2000. Acknowledges that we are on the traditional respects to elders past, present, and emerging. Not of continuing importance. I will now say the council pledge. We seek wisdom and understanding as we face the duties of our united task, praying for the peace and prosperity of our city. Please be seated. On leave, we have Neil. Apologies, we have one, which is Mayor Matt Larwood. Declaration of members' conflict of interest. Do I have any conflicts of interest? I'll declare one for item 10.1, Deputy Mayor. So upon advice and consistent with our meeting procedures, I'll be staying in the meeting and participating in debate and also voting. Any other conflicts of interest? No. Okay, I'll move on. Confirmation of minutes. The recommendation is in front of you in terms of the minutes from 24th of October. I have someone to move that. Thank you, Councillor Standard, seconded by Councillor Nelson. All those in favour? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. Public question time. No? Okay, we'll move on. Petitions, there are nil. Deputations, there are nil. Questions without notice. Members, in your hands. Questions without notice. None. I'll move on. We'll move to item 10.1, which is the appointment of Deputy Mayor. I will suspend meeting procedures briefly to call for nominations, and then we'll go through the process thereafter. So can I call for any nominations for Deputy Mayor?
Can I nominate?
Yes.
Yep, can I nominate you?
Thank you, Councillor. Yes, you can, and I accept the nomination. Any other nominations? Can I just clarify that would be for a 1 year period?
For duration of 1 year term.
Thank you. Okay, no other nominations? No? Okay, well, I will resume meeting procedures. Governance Manager? Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Sorry,
Yep.
just checking our process here.
Yep.
And so the recommendation in front of you on the screen there is that there has been one nomination for position of Deputy Mayor for a period of 1 year. Just wait for it to come up on the screen. Thank you. Someone to move that way. Councillor Barnett.
Yes.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to it?
No, it takes
Okay.
too much time.
Thank you. Thank you. Someone to second, please. Councillor Standard. Thank you. No, anyone else? Would you like to sum that up, Councillor?
No.
Okay. All those in favour? Those against? It's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Thank you for your support. Audit and Risk Management Committee. I'm going to do a similar process. I'll suspend meeting procedures briefly to call for nominations. Are there nominations for the Audit and Risk Committee? Councillor Becker.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Nelson.
Councillor Nelson, do you accept the nomination?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Any other nominations? No. Excellent. Makes life a little bit easier tonight. Thank you. That will appear in front of us on the screen in a moment. And once it does, I'll ask someone to move that way. Thank you. So someone to move that way, please. Councillor Standard, would you like to speak?
Thanks.
Okay. Someone to second. Councillor Hollett. Thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor Standard, would you like to sum up?
No, I think I've said it all.
I think you have too. All those in favour? Those against? It is carried. Thank you. Community grants review outcomes 10.3. Recommendations in front of you there. Call for somebody to move that recommendation. Councillor Barnett.
Yes, I'll move that way. I think from reading the report that it follows the other discussions that we've had. And so, I think it's, I look forward to, if there are no, alterations to it, look forward to, it, happening.
Thank you. Someone to second. Councillor Rebecca.
Yeah, I'd like to thank you for your report. And just a question through the chair, there is talk of an online system. How long will that be up for the community?
CEO.
Ms Taylor, if you could come up and answer that question, please.
Oh, sorry, just in regards to the online application.
We are currently, to check, we're currently working on that. I'm the manager of community relations. Did you want to add anything to that one? Through the chair, I'm very hopeful that we would have that in place to open the next annual round if we can establish the budget for that, which I'm hopeful we can do.
Thank you. That's it. Any other speakers to the motion? Councillor Nelson.
Sorry, I do just have some questions if I may. I didn't get in time. I've got 3 questions here. We did talk about when we had our workshop, 3 matters I've got. One was increasing the funding. At what stage did we discuss the increase of funding on this? The fact that we do our budgets in April, we're doing this in for us December. What stage do we look at increase the funding?
CEO.
If through the mayor, deputy mayor, the obvious time is the budget process. So budget process will be opening obviously for workshop discussions in March. That would be the time to consider that. Mr. Alderson, is the grants program an operating project or is it in the recurrent budget?
It is a recurrent budget.
So it's a recurrent budget item, so we need to discuss that early in the workshop process. It's part of the recurrent budget.
Okay. Second question is that we also discussed opening up the funding to non-incorporated entities for general residents to do local projects. That hasn't changed. I'm just wondering why.
CEO.
Ms. Taylor, can you offer some insight into that,
Through
please?
the chair, that has been amended, so the guidelines allow that. That's not essential.
I must have missed it in the report.
Ms. Feronio, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, through the chair, we have changed the eligibility criteria, so it is now able to be applied for through to businesses, non-incorporated groups and sole traders, but there is some very clear criteria that they need to meet, which is really associated with having a clear community outcome, not profit driven, that sort of thing, in order to meet the eligibility, but they're absolutely eligible to apply.
Great. And just my last one very quickly. I note in the report it's still got non-funded or sorry, not funded. But it still states that not funded includes ongoing programs and services, yet we still do. I'm wondering if that should be changed or not.
CEO.
Ms. Taylor, Ms. Feronio, any comment?
Through the chair, so you're saying we currently still do fund, but through the grants program, is that?
Yeah, so but I'm saying that we do fund ongoing programs, but the policy says that we don't fund them.
I might take that one. I mean, any ongoing program that we would fund would need to apply year on year, would it not?
Yeah.
So, yeah, the answer to that is the program itself may be ongoing, but the funding commitment by council is on an annual basis, and that's what the grant program always anticipates. Any further?
Yeah, thank you through the chair. We have added a term in there to say that applicants can only be funded for a project or initiative that is similar to previous years 2 times in a 3-year period. So the idea behind that being that if something is working well, you've got an opportunity to apply for it more than once, but we also want to work with you to create other ways for that program to be sustainable and not keep funding the same thing. So it sort of allows a little bit of that refunding things that council deems to be valuable to the community, but it's not set up in a way to be a recurrent budget, a recurrent grant that you can get year on year on year. So that's our meet in the middle and see how we go with that. Obviously very happy to review that in a couple of years and talk that through and see if that's working well or not.
Okay, great, thanks.
Thank you, councillor. Any other discussion? Not back to councillor Barnett to sum up.
Yes, as I said before, I thank Councillor Wilson for putting some of those items up and just confirming, I think what we've already previously discussed. And so yeah, I think it's good to be able to have, people, you know, like, some of our local, businesses involved, as long as they, you know, meet our proposal criteria that gets passed. Commend it to the council.
Thank you, councillor. I'll now take the vote. All those in favour? Those against? You carried unanimously. Thank you. 10.4, the draft strategic community plan. This paper is looking for endorsement. See if there's someone willing to move the recommendation. Councillor Nelson.
You know, great job done by the team. I think it's really well.
So can I just double check you're moving?
Yes,
Yes, okay.
sorry. Great document, well done to the team. And yes, very happy to move that.
Thank you. Councillor Nguyen.
Yeah, I'm happy to second that as well. I agree. I love how this draft report documents read. It's easy to follow, it's clear, it's colourful. I also think it's pitch right. Well done to the Director of City Strategy, Community and Culture and her team for leading this piece of work. I think the efforts they put into the community consultation across the city during the past months is worth noting. I fully support the draft document going out to consultation.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? No, just very briefly from the chair also, just to provide my thanks. I think this is the clearest plan we've had in my time in council. It's succinct, it's to the point, it's measurable, and I look forward to reviewing our activity in another 3 years' time. So thank you to the CEO and the director for their work on this. Back to Councillor Nelson.
Enough to be said. Well done, guys.
Thank you. All those in favour? Those against? It was carried unanimously. Thank you very much. 10.5, the Economic Development Growth Strategy. Someone to move that paper, please. Councillor Nelson.
Once again, yeah, yes, happy to move. Once again, great job by John and the team. I wasn't actually aware, I think I must have missed it in previous meetings, wasn't aware we're putting this document together, but it's actually a very well structured document. And obviously puts it out there that what our growth strategy is now. So well done, guys.
Thank you. Someone to second the motion. Councillor Becker.
Yeah, again, great work, and I think it's very much the main road of the site, and continuing work on Prospect Road and Churchill Road and some other precincts around the area. I think it's really important to have this strategic document. Other funding streams as well.
Absolutely. Well said. Anyone else wish to speak to this motion? No, back to Councillor Nelson to sum up.
All good, thank you.
Thank you. I'll go to the vote. Thank you. All those in favour? Those against? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. Draft Community Facility Lease and Licence Policy, page 119, your pack. For someone to move the two recommendations there in front of you. Councillor Nelson.
Well done, Chris. Obviously it's a long time coming for this, and I know you've put in a lot of hard effort on this and the outside sources you've gone in, so very, very well done, well structured. I just do have one question, is 6.1.3. Just curious if I can get an explanation on what is the legislative requirement of where we need to undertake public consultation. I know we briefly discussed this during the workshop, but I'd love to know what limits there are on whether we have to go back and open up the consultation or what decisions we get made here.
CEO.
I'm going to have a crack at this, but I will qualify it by asking the Director of City Works and Presentation to confirm what I tell you is true. I'm I'm more familiar with interstate requirements, but they're largely consistent with the South Australian requirements, as I understand. Any license or lease over a community facility that extends beyond 5 years requires a community consultation. Is that correct, Mr. Delena? Beyond that, we must consult with the community. And Mr. Delena, are there triggers for are the requirements still that what happens in relation to that consultation process? Just a consultation process and council can still make a decision, or?
Correct. So through the chair, just ensuring that we consult in accordance with our consultation policy is number one. And ultimately, it's about the council to make a decision based on that feedback. It's not necessarily the level of support the feedback, but it needs to make a decision considering the results of that.
So if there is community opposition, that doesn't prevent council from issuing a lease or a license. Are there any requirements for leases or licenses beyond 21 years, Mr. Delena?
So through the chair, the requirement over 5 years is the same regardless of that term.
Right,
So the maximum applicable term is 42 years now in the Local Government Act. But effectively, there is anything over 5 years requires a consultation to occur with the community.
which would add some months based upon our consultation requirements in the policy. Right. Thank you, Mr. Knight.
Yes, no, that's just, thank you, Chris. It's a really well structured thing, and I think it's covered everything that we covered in the workshop. So well done.
Thank you. Can someone second? Councillor Hollett, thank you. Do you have to speak to it? No, Councillor Barnett.
Yes, I think we're finally sort of getting there, but I do just have a query on page 144, items 6.16 and 6.17. And I'll just read them out while people are perhaps looking for them. 6.16, organisations must seek written permission from council prior to entering into an agreement with another organisation for use of the facilities. Yes.
Councillor Barnett, that's, I think you're referring to the old policy.
Am I?
Yes,
Oh,
you are.
all right. So I thought I read that in the new one as well.
Do you have a page reference for the new one?
No, I'm trying to find it. Well, then in that case, I will just query that what was in the old document about referring to, you know, for example, like if the prospect for the Gordon Bowling Club might have the Larriville Prospect Lions Club meet in there. Or the RSL might have, you know, hire it out to, they've been getting a lot of local families having children's activities in there. So I just want to be reassured that that's not going to be, you know, that you don't have to get permission before all those sorts of things happen.
So how about I take that as a question, councillor? So the question is, does section 6.16 in the old policy apply in the new policy? Maybe that's the
Yes.
question.
Or both of them, 6.16
Yeah.
and 6.17,
Yeah.
because one's, you can understand about the subletting, I think that's fair enough.
Yes.
But
So-
just for, yeah,
So through the deputy mayor, I am certain that there is a requirement. I'm just looking for it right now on the hop. I'm certain there is a requirement in the new policy that any sublease or sublicense requires council consent prior to being issued.
yeah,
If there's not, I assure you that's something we'll be correcting very soon. However, that does not apply to simple usage arrangements that don't comprise a lease or license.
yeah,
That's not something we would constrain exclusive users to. In fact, it's something we'd like to encourage, if anything. And I think certainly the other requirements of the policy make it quite clear that additional community value in the form of opening the facility up to other use is highly encouraged, and indeed something that we'll be assessing them on a regular basis as part of their performance requirements.
good. Oh, that's put my mind at ease then.
Thank you, councillor Barnett. Anything else? No? Anyone else like to speak to this? Otherwise, I will go back to the mover. Councillor Baker.
Yeah, I always love moving a draft policy with this community consultation, so I think it's really important that members can put it out there to the community if they want to have a say on it. And it's a draft policy, and I think it's very clear, embraces that direction, and I think it's really good that we didn't call out specific ones, so it's the same for everybody. So it's good for everybody, that's what we've done.
Thank you, councillor. No one else? Councillor Nelson.
I think that's been said.
Thank you. I'll call the vote. All those in favour? Those against? It's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. We'll go to 10.7, quite an appropriate paper for today's weather, Churchill Road Drainage Project. Look for someone to move that, please. Councillor Stanton.
I'll move it. I must say, I think this is extremely timely given the weather event we've just been through, and it would seem by the grace of whatever that we've dodged the bullet and the hard work of the staff who went through and made sure that we came out looking pretty good. But it is timely. These weather events, obviously, you know, not going to go away, and one of them's going to get us sooner or later. And I think this is timely that we just keep moving forward with this so that we're not left in a position where we've got flooded. So I think, yeah, very timely that we got another reminder that these events do happen and they are severe. So let's keep going.
Thank you, councillor Stan. I should also mention, just very briefly, recommendation 3 has been amended slightly to read just a little clearer. So it's certainly the same intent. So I should mention that before you moved it, councillor Stan.
I'm happy to-
I'm sure you still move it, but just some slight wording changes there, just for clarity. Someone to second, please. Councillor Nguyen.
Yeah, I'll be happy to second this one. This covers a few aspects in the area, like the Islington station, and I like it that we're approaching Renewal SA to partner up and help work together with that area. And also that the bicycle funding, that'll be good because that can go towards the path there as well. So it does touch on a lot of things in that one small area. So definitely will support this and hopefully we can have this all done in the coming years.
Thank you. Councillor Backer.
Yeah, I think, you know, it's great that we've got a way forward, and like I said, we always need more money to do this, and again, acknowledging Councillor's point on age, that we've got some funding for the state bicycle fund. If I could just draw attention to the fact that is a bike path. Now, currently, that's part of the Waller Greenway that connects to the new $50 million Cooper's Experience Centre on Regency Road. And there's a greenway and the Devonport Terrace goes all the way to Martin Moore. I'd like us to think bigger, that it could be like a tourism opportunity and we can start connecting and knocking on doors for more money and possibly partner with neighbouring councils to make it an experience, not just an infrastructure project. So I think it'd be really exciting if something like that.
Thank you. Good point. Councillor Barnett.
Yes, just picking up on that, I noticed in one of our local apps, there was well, a survey actually about the path that bike path, the existing one, and about the state of it, and it looked there was a lot of things, you know, that could be fixed up on there. There's a lot of deadly matter and looked, you know, whatever. But I do know that was shared between the two of our councils, us and our Enfield Council. So I'm just wondering if there could be a bit more loving care by both councils given to the state of that path, seeing it's being brought to the attention of about 300,000 people on the app.
Sorry, councillor, is that a question or just a comment?
It's a comment.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to this motion? That was councillor Standen. I'll do you to sum up.
I think all been said.
Thank you. All those in favour? Sorry, all those in favour, do that again. Thank you. Those against, it's carried unanimously. Thank you. 10.8, the annual report on page 177. 4 recommendations in this motion. I'll look to someone to move it, please. Councillor Standen. Like to speak more?
I just want to say, as someone who's written quite a few over my professional career annual reports, this one's a cracker. It's well written, it's well laid out. It's not all heavy and dense. You've got wonderful little breakouts of relevant information that people can just flick through, and it's well written and it's well designed as well. And I think it's absolute credit that they're going to put it together.
Awesome. Someone to second. Councillor Nelson.
Yeah, kind of mimicking councillor Standards. I've just got here, great document, well structured and informative. So well done, guys. Good document.
Thank you. Anyone else? That's about it. Very rarely does a year go by that you don't find a spelling error.
No, it's
None this year?
It's highly improved
Fantastic.
over the last few years, so the staff
Well done,
should be
Director.
commended.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to this? If not, I'll go back to the mover, councillor Standen.
I will sum up by saying this is everything you want an annual report to be.
Thank you. All those in favour? Those against, it's carried unanimously. Thank you. And I certainly concur with all those comments. It's a very good report. 10.9, first budget review for this financial year. Someone to move that, please. In your hands, councillors. Thank you, councillor Hollett. you like to speak to it?
Oh, no, no.
Okay, thank you. Someone to second it.
Oh, well, I'll second. it.
Thank you,
Look,
councillor Barnett.
I mean, this is so close to our heart, finances. I think we spend more of our time talking about finances than most probably any other topics of traffic, perhaps, or whatever. Anyway, so again, I just love some of the infographics, where do our funds go? I mean, we've had that before and all that, but, I just think that, yeah, I just love the look, and it's got some of my favourite photos in there, like the we're down on the fence down in Memorial Gardens and so forth. And I just hope that, more of our residents in our lake towers do actually take time to read it. So I commend it to them.
Thank you, councillor Barnett. Councillor Baker.
No one likes carried forwards and no one likes overruns. But we can't do half the road. We just can't. So, we're responsible for, maintaining our assets and building new ones. And I think it's really responsible that we've had those workshop discussions. We've tried to manage those budget blowouts and say, well, we could do this or we can do that. And I think we've been very open with our community in some of the compromises we've made, and we'd love to do everything, we just can't. So, although there's a couple of bit of pills to swallow here, I think it's, something that a lot of councils are struggling with, and that's not an excuse. I just, we've got to keep an eye on this, and I'm sure Councillor Nelson needs to be role in the work committee. We'll certainly bring back those things, and I certainly enjoyed my time because it gives you that sort of global perspective. And certainly I'm really keen for the asset management documents and condition reports to come back to us so we can anticipate some of those blowouts before they hit us. So thank you. I'm going to commend you.
Thank you, councillor. Councillor Nelson.
Just 3 questions if I can. Some of these may be answered in my new role, of course, but page 303, net financial liabilities has a tick. I'm guessing that's a misprint or a mistake. You may just need to get rectified.
CEO.
Mr. Alderson, page 103.
303.
303, sorry.
Yeah, it should be an up arrow. It's above.
Net financial liability.
Sorry, it probably should be a,
Should be an X.
should be an X. We're above our threshold, yes.
All good. And I guess with a kind of a lack of understanding of how these work, being my first time I've read one of these things, if we endorse the budget on the 23rd of August, how did we not know about the retimed and carried forward projects that would have been known back in June? Just curious how we didn't know 6 weeks later.
Thank you, councillor. CEO.
Mr. Alderson, can you explain?
So the budget that we went to consultation with back in May took into account all the retime projects that occurred as part of the January BR2, January-February BR2. As part of BR3, we did a reforecasting of what we would anticipate projects to have completed, and that sort of fell through that process. What we are retiming at the very moment is primarily the underspend in those projects that occurred in that end of year period. So this is the tidying up of things that we had anticipated at BR3 to be largely financially completed. Now, there are some things in there that we could have potentially we would have reforecast, but because the budget was where it was at that time, we were unable to then incorporate that into the consultation piece.
Okay.
The issues around, so we went to consultation in May, for all of May, and then incorporating in the second round of consultation has only really gone out and considered the Main North Road. Our capacity was only to consider Main North Road, not to then go through and say, where were we in that last, BR3 was made. Where were we with that last retiming and trying to then cram that into that document?
Understand, just a statement before I ask my last question. I'm still struggling to understand how items like financial reporting, Village Heart Marketing Fund, Green Tunnel programs, how they can be carryovers, but I'll leave that to the executives. My last question was obviously if these, we're talking about $804,000 worth of overruns and brought forwards. The fact that they were budgeted in the FY23 year, brought forward to the FY24 year, does that now involve a rewrite or an adjustment back to the FY23 financials?
CEO.
Chris?
Mr. Alderson?
So the residual result of BR3 versus where the end of financial year comes out, the end of financial year result is a better result than what we had forecast as part of our BR3.
So the answer is
So
yes.
our actual result is better than what the budget BR3 forecast was. So yes, but it's budget numbers.
So it's kind of a nil-nil.
It's a nil-nil. These projects,
written back into.
and the important thing is these projects are not being rate revenue generated in the 23-24 year because that has already occurred. So we're not double revenuing them. It's just a budget moving into this year.
So members will recall the fact that at the last meeting, we adopted our audited financial statements, which offered a $1.6 million surplus, which was far higher than anticipated, and that's balanced by this number.
That's fine. That's okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillors? Not, I'll head back to councillor Hollett to sum up.
I think the concerns have been raised and the questions that people have been answered, so thank you to them.
Excellent. Thank you. I'll take to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? It's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. 10.10, quarterly projects update. It's quite a bit in this one. There's 8 recommendations, including some decision points in those. So I'll ask if there's a member willing to move. Councillor Nelson.
Yes, I'm happy to move it. I mean, there is a lot in there. All of these we've covered in the past or in other workshops. So very happy with the progress that we've made. Especially happy for the North Ward to see the Matthews Reserve moving forward with the design. And of course, I was rapt to see the Islington $20,000 we've got there from the bike state bicycle fund to at least start getting some designs done and everything else. But everything there looks very, very good. So thank you to the team for that update.
Thank you. Someone to second, please. Councillor Nguyen.
Yeah, I'm happy to second this. With regards to Matthew Reserve, just want to double check the round 1 consultation period. Is that the 4th of December 2023 or 2024? So there's just some error.
Ms. Taylor?
Through the chair, 2023,
Yeah.
that's correct.
Yeah, so just need to correct that on page 321. It says commencing on the 4th of December 2024 and closes on the 14th of January 2024. So
Oh,
it should be
correct. Yes, that's a
23.
typographical error.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so I strongly encourage staff to talk to the Blair Athol Tennis Club. Really want to see, you know, their usage, their court usage, and whether there's opportunities for the general public to use, you know, the courts when it's not being used. And it's not just, you know, this court, it's other courts, our other facilities as well. You know, when they're not using it, it shouldn't be shut, the gate shouldn't be closed. We should be encouraging our community members to have access to that. So strongly support that. With regards to the Livingston project, maybe a question to the director. So we're not reconstructing the roads, the curbs and the footpath, and it's just a reseal, is that right?
CEO.
Mr. Leonard, we did have a workshop on this. Can you summarise, please?
And so effectively, we've broken up the Livingston Avenue into 3 segments. Segment and Mendes to Maud, Maud to Hillsdale, and Hillsdale to Prospect Road. The section between Maud and Hillsdale is the by far the worst section from the pavement profile, from the levels, between the curbing and the property boundaries, drainage. That's the main focus. That's complete reconstruction, all the curbs, all the footpath, all the home, and the major drainage is sort of in that vicinity there. The extremities, so Maud to Mendes and effectively Hillsdale to Prospect Road, there'll be a reseal on those elements. We patch up the sections of the curb that are damaged, and we'll effectively patch the sections of footpath that are raised or otherwise. those assets are in better condition overall, in terms of the curbing and the footpath. Some of the vast sections of paving already that exists in some of those sections. So, in the workshop, we documented the fact that it wasn't a reduced council money actually effectively to replace the entirely. There's plenty of asset life, so we'd actually make good, and it would effectively be those elements would be renewals. And there wasn't significant drainage work in those areas, so and effectively the pavements were able just to be restored later.
Again, I just want to reiterate the consultation period. It's at the beginning of the year, and that's the time where people go away or they're about to come back. And so just being mindful of that time, it's a time where, people do go away, and so it's hard to catch them if they do want to speak to us about that consultation period. The other item I want to talk about is the Prospect Oval chairlift. We had our Access Inclusion Community Reference Advisory Group meeting last week, and the options were presented there. Even though ideally, what was presented was, the access via the car park on Wilcox Avenue. Ideally, it would have been good for it to be in the main area, the main building. But the group understood that retrofitting is is difficult, so they were okay with the option. However, there was talk about having an additional disability parking, and I just want to ask the chair, can you let me know whether we have one disability parking allocated spot there, and is there an opportunity to put in a second one?
Great question, Stephen.
Mr. Delano.
Yeah, through the chair, we certainly received the feedback, the minutes from the Access Inclusion meeting. Staff are agreed on the basis that we're allocating 2 times. I think other parts of the motion that refer to writing to the SNFL as well, with respect to promotion of disability parking and access to the facility, not the global. That's something that obviously been taken on board.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you, councillor. Any other member wish to speak to the point? Councillor Becker.
I just briefly, I just noted that the second one is part rotunda is, and this is scheduled workshop on the 5th of December. I just wanted to confirm that he's got a few residents that would like to attend.
See ya.
Yes.
Thank you. And would that also be addressing the status of the carob tree in St. John's Park, or just the rotunda?
Mr. Delano.
Through the chair, the intent was to present on the rotunda. I can provide a verbal update with respect to the carob tree. Now, obviously, I've provided an update to the both board councillors that existing. I think that's a question. That's not.
Yeah.
The existing carob tree, which is obviously quite significant culturally to this community, is suffering. It's about 20% decline in its dieback. That tree, staff have had arborists out to review that. We believe it's likely to be rodents that are causing the issue and stripping the bark off. You can see that there's actually teeth marks and large sections of the tree. So we're in the process of pest removal. We're also doing other things to help aid with the trees, basically improving itself in terms of setting up additional irrigation systems and other related works. So in terms of keeping a close eye on that tree. That's really what
I would suggest that the Rotunda workshop will have a lot to cover. And so hopefully that is a sufficient answer for yourself. And the other councillors.
Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. Any other councillors wish to speak to this motion? Not back to councillor Nelson.
No, I think enough to be said. Thank
That
you.
has been said. Okay, thank you. All those in favour? Those against? It's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. We'll move to 10.11, which is review of financial policies. I can see the interest in your faces now. Look to someone to move the motion on page 362. Councillor Nelson.
Just for something different, happy to move this. I'm very, very happy to see us move to a 2-year budget cycle. For starters, I think this is a very good move by the CEO and leadership team, giving us a lot more scope for planning. And just policy updates look good. Very happy to move.
Thank you. Someone to second, please. Councillor Stanton.
I don't wish to speak. Just moving it on.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to this? I'll just reiterate your comment, Councillor Nelson. I think the two-year budget cycle was a great challenge for us to think through, and looking forward to seeing how that plays out next year. I think it's a great initiative. Just to sum up, Councillor Nelson.
2-year budget cycle is fantastic.
I heard that. I'd agree. Thank you. We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? It's carried unanimously. 10.12 Regional Public Health Plan Progress Report, page 397. Some recommendations there in front of you. Someone to move that way, please. Yes, we've done 211. Councillor Nelson, thank you.
Sure.
I think I saw your hand up, didn't I?
Sure. Thank you to Scott. Fantastic report, Scott. Very good, and yeah, happy to move this. Thank you.
That's it?
Yes, that's it.
Thank you.
Short, sharp, and sweet.
Someone to second, please. Councillor Stanton.
I'll say this.
Not sure you did, but anyone else wish to speak to this? Councillor.
Yes, yeah, I just think it's a really good and a bit of an honest reviewing of, well, you know, what we can manage and not be managed and that. So I think, you know, there are just so many things on this that I think it was no wonder that something, you know, had to be reviewed and not be done. Yeah, so I think that it's, you know, my view, it's better that we do it as a region. We do some things really well instead of trying to do a whole lot of things maybe not as well. So I think that approach is good.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to this? If not, back to Councillor Nelson.
Done. Thank you.
Thank you. Go to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. 10.13 Citizenship Ceremony 2024 scheduled dates. 2 recommendations in front of you, councillors. Someone to move. Is there someone to move this morning? Councillor Hollis, thank you.
Yes. Look, I think a few of us have probably looked into this one in depth. It's been the advertiser. There's a bit of controversy over it. Look, I'm actually for keeping the date, citizenship on the 26th. It's not just the perception out there, but I feel too it diminishes, you know, the significance and importance of Australia Day and possibly the citizenship ceremony too by changing the date. Citizenship is not really just getting citizenship on that day. I mean, you can just go rubber stamp in a government department and do that. There's symbolism to it. There's celebration. I think it ties in really well with Australia Day. And I'm not sure a lot of people, I don't think realise this, but the first citizenship we had in Australia was 26th of January of 49. And that was, prior to that, we were all British, or I wasn't around then, British subjects. So there is this connection there. And there's also that, you know, both the ceremony and Australia Day share the same kind of values, you know, coming together, aspiring to sort of have this future together, regardless of your race, heritage, nationality, past. It's really a way of celebrating coming together, I think. I know there's that, you know, there are different perceptions of what Australia Day is, and those differences should be respected. But I think it's important not to take away from those that do want to celebrate it, because there are differing views. I think it's important that, you know, that distinction is made. I hope councillors here can look at that and not put all their weight on perhaps not upsetting those that do not agree with Australia Day. I think that's where it comes from. It's not the citizenship ceremony, it's just having the ceremony on that date. So, look, no more points really. I'd like to see it stay. I know it's an extra $1,000, and we worry about, you know, every dollar is to be spent with value in mind. And I think in this case, it is significant. It's ceremony is, I think, you know, those coming on the day enjoy it too. I myself went to my parents, I'm a first generation Australian, and I think I might have been about 7 or 8, but I do remember that day we got into our nice clothes, and I knew there was something special about the day. I knew my parents were becoming Australian, and it is symbolic. There's something special about that day, and I do think it's nice it's tied in with the 26th of January. So
Councillor, can I just
Yeah.
check you have moved this motion, you have spoken against it. I just want to make sure you're comfortable moving it.
yes,
Yes, okay.
yes,
good. No,
yes,
thank you.
yes. So I figured it would be
Yeah,
moved. So I'm
absolutely.
moving it,
Yep.
bringing up for discussion.
Thank you. Someone to second. Councillor Wynne?
Yeah, I'm seconding it and just pointing out that we've always done it on a different date, so not on the 26th. We've been doing that for 15 years, it says on here. Yeah, I'm also I'm a part of the KMD Commander Advisory Group. So we've had their feedback, had feedback from the general community. It's going to save us money, and not having staff to come on the day that is a public holiday that we could be spending with our families as well. So I support having it 3 days before and not having it on the 26th.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Barnett?
Yes, I support the motion. I think it's more about we can, by doing this, we can provide our citizens, our various community groups, individuals, whatever they are, it does provide more choice. I think if people want to celebrate it, they can do so themselves. If they don't, for whatever reason, I just think it's the date of 26th of January is Australia Day, as public holiday, has quite checkered history. And it reflects many political and social changes and historic events happening in our Australian states and territories. I won't take too much longer, but I did provide this sort of history that I had researched, and I did see it previously. But Australia Day actually originated as the first official Australia Day on the 30th of July 1915 to raise funds for the World War effort. So we have it there for World War. It was so successful that it's repeated again and again and again. Then national days, with the rise of nationalism, proliferated around the world as nation states invented traditions aimed at mobilising their populations in the years leading up to First World War. So Australia Day then has been the first Australia Day, the first ever official national day was actually named Australia Day. It was on July 30th in 1915, as I said. And it came about by Ellen Wharton Kirk, a man in New South Wales, reporting due to the misspent of her 3 sons, said that she had seen the generosity of Australian people during other fundraising days and saw an Australia Day as a way of drawing on the pride of Australians and their soldiers' recent achievements at Gallipoli. 30th July 1915 was the date agreed upon, and events were held across West Australia. So then it moves on. We get second Australia Day. In 1916, an Australia Day committee was formed, again to organise the war effort fundraising. It was determined to be held on July the 28th. And so then we have chronologically here, I won't keep on going and going. So it's really just, in a sense, then we had all the different states and territories having all their different ones, like, our Foundation Day and so forth. So Australia Day then eventually became the public holiday for all states and territories in 1994. Then we have the National Australia Day Council being formed. So, so then we have another, position on it. We get an Australian Year National Award since January 1960, which they say has suffered its own political controversies. And then we have So we have this group now promoting active citizenship. Awarded to Australian citizens, part of the National Australia Day. So then we continue in 1979 with the formation of the National Australia Day Council. And so we keep going. So now we've got the, since the 1980s, Australia Day on or near the 26th of January has now morphed into a day of citizenship ceremonies, whereas it wasn't before. Aimed at celebrating our culture, space and tradition. And it was legislated by the federal government, the local councils, the organisations involved. So since 2000, reasons put forward are the, various ones, the current date, celebrating New South Wales, it's not ours, whichever state you're in, and so forth. At any rate, so there has been discussion, obviously, about it, and now we have more discussion. And this has come about because there was a change happening on the 13th of January 2019, when the Prime Minister at the time said that from then on, it would have to be held on only on the 26th of January. And so then we also had the 17th of September as our Australian Citizenship Day. So we do have a National Citizenship Day that really does focus more on being national, an Australian citizen. There was a report, Australian Citizenship for a New Century, and from that recommendation came that would be celebrated then. So we have 17th of September as our Australian Citizenship Day, and I personally think that more emphasis should be put on that for our citizenship. And so then, yeah, I think that's all I would say, as I haven't got much more time left.
You don't, you're right on
But
cue.
if we go to history, you see, it does teach us something some of the time.
Thank you, councillor. I certainly learned something from that, so thank you for your research. Other councillors? Councillor Nelson?
Thank you, Chair. Actually, kind of strange enough, I'd like to thank Councillor Barnett for almost proving my point. I'm about to try and prove. On this motion, doesn't refer to Australia Day. It refers to a date, which is the 26th of January. And what significance does that have? And I certainly understand that the 26th of January we always refer to as Australia Day. And is seen as, or can be seen as controversial in regards to landing the first fleet back in 1788. However, the purpose of holding our citizenship ceremony in this state is different, and it must be considered. The 26th of January is significant to citizenship ceremonies because the Nationality and Citizenship Act of 1948 became law on the 26th of January 1949. This act created Australian citizenship. Before that, there was no Australian citizenship. That is what the 26th of January means to me and many others. It's who we are. We are Australians, and this definition was born on the 26th of January 1949. Over the last 70 years, the Act has evolved and has had more than 30 amendments, yes, 30 amendments, including in 1984, where it was amended so that Australians would no longer be considered British subjects. Nevertheless, citizenship, again, was born on the 26th of January 1949. Despite the 17th of September being referred to as Australian Citizenship Day, many immigrants and citizenship hopefuls strive to have their ceremonies on the 26th of January because of the significance of that date. I acknowledge the results of community consultation, where we received 88 respondents, but also refer to the recent survey conducted in the Advertiser over the last 4 days. And as of midday today, consisted of 1,728 votes, with 81% of respondents wanting our ceremonies and our citizenships to remain on the 26th of January. So I won't be supporting this motion.
Could I just have a point of order?
Point of order?
My point of order is about a slightly incorrect information given by Councillor Nelson, because not all Australian people received Australian citizenship on that day, particularly our first Australians. So that would be my point of order.
I'm not sure that is a point of order, but I'm happy for to have it as a point of clarification and it may be a difference of
So
opinion.
just
So
need to have correct.
thank you. Councillor Nelson, you concluded?
I'm finished, yes, thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Councillor Standen.
First of all, I must celebrate the diverse number of opinions around the chamber. Respectfully, and everyone, just saying what they want to say with the respect from the other councillor. I think that's fantastic. I wasn't born an Australian citizen. I became an Australian citizen in 1994 in the building that was here before this one, in the city of Prospect. I can't remember what date it was. I know it was in 1994 because I had to travel that year and I didn't have an Australian passport. But it wasn't on January 26th, it wasn't in January, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it was probably more in the middle of the year. So I don't remember the date. The date to me really doesn't have great significance. The citizenship does. That's the thing that came away from that. I'll be supporting this motion. I think it basically goes back to the way that we were before 2019, which for all intents and purposes worked. And the only reason we moved was because we were mandated to. So as an Australian citizen that became an Australian citizen pretty much on this piece of land here, I support this motion.
Thank you, councillor. Councillor Wynne.
There's so many different perspectives and, arguments to this issue. And, I think whichever way, whichever way we decide, I think we'll be criticised. But we have to make a decision. And I feel that, initially my decision was to not support this motion. But I think about the Kamanka group and their existence and their involvement with council. And if this is a group of people who have said to us that they believe that it shouldn't be on this day, I'm basing my vote on that because of the relationship we have with this group. But also today I've spoken to other people in this city, and they have expressed why they don't want it to be on Australia Day. I think for me it's not the actual day, it's the ceremony itself. So it's not an easy one, but it's a decision that we have to make, and I'm basing my decision on that relationship we have with the Kamanka group. So I will be supporting the motion.
Thank you, councillor. Anyone else? No, look, just briefly from the chair, what a wonderful country we live in that we can have this conversation so civilly, and I think it's fantastic we have debate, particularly on this one. I don't get a vote tonight, which I'm actually a little bit disappointed about. I would like to have voted. I would be voting in support of the motion. I'm very supportive of changing the date, and I thank the administration for bringing this to us because there are a number of councils, including the Adelaide City Council tonight, who are grappling with the same issue. I think it's fantastic we went out and did some community consultation, notwithstanding Councillor Nelson's point about the advertisers poll, but we can only go on what we heard from our residents here. I think this is such a divisive issue, and if nothing else, that we're listening to our First Nations people. I think for me that's actually quite enough to make a decision, and it's partly on that that I'm making my decision. It's also not a financial decision. I think the $1,000 is neither here nor there. That's immaterial for our budget, really. So that for me is not a consideration. The other thing I was going to say is earlier this year I happened to oversee the citizenship ceremony on the 26th of January this year in the Mayor's absence. And I think to Councillor Standon's point, the people who were part of that ceremony didn't actually matter whether it was a Monday or a Sunday. They were just so excited to be Australian citizens. I don't think the date has probably the same meaning for many people, and I don't think that is what date they do it. I've been in this council when we did it outside of Australia Day. I've been in council when we were instructed by the federal government to do it on Australia Day. I think the choice is a much better option and we can make that decision. So while I don't get a vote, just so you know how I would vote if I was able to, it would be in support of the motion. And I just want to say thank you for the respectful debate as well. I think it's great. We can all have a difference of opinion. We still walk out as friends. So thank you for that. I'll just offer any other person or any other member that hasn't spoken yet, if you'd like to speak. If not, I'll go back to Councillor Hollett.
Just on Christine and Councillor Barnett's point about Indigenous people and not being made citizens on that day. I think theirs was an automatic because they were born in Australia, they still were considered Australian citizens. They weren't excluded. It was the vote. They didn't get the vote till later, which was quite a separate thing to citizenship. I thought I knew about that date. I thought I'd, read up a bit more on it, but but still, that's, I mean, as Councillor Nelson said, there is that significance of the 2 dates. That is the first citizens were enforced, citizenship was enforced on that date. Really, I think, and I do respect those very much, so even though I support it being held on Australia Day, I do respect those various or differing opinions on Australia Day. But I've always had a bit of an issue, regardless of what it is, whatever issue it is, and in this case it's a ceremony. I have an issue that, you know, often you're pressured to change what you do to fit in with another idea, and when you're celebrating something that is good, and those that believe in that feel it's good, it's not for bad reason, it should be, I think, separated. You know, it's obviously there are Indigenous groups that don't support Australia Day, and that is fine, but those that do support it are not supporting it because their sovereignty was taken away or because of any awful things. I just wanted to make that clear. Yeah.
Thank you, councillor. I'll now take it to a vote. All those in favour? Those against? It's carried.
Division?
Division, I'll call it division. I normally do the calling, not the organising. I think those that voted no, isn't it? Yes. So those who voted in the negative, you please stand and have your names recorded. Thank you. We'll now move on to item 11, general business of an urgent nature. Is there any business of an urgent nature? No. Okay, we'll go to reports of information from page 412 in your pack. These information reports, of course, can be resolved en bloc. As per our protocol, only those items which are reserved by members will be pulled out of the pack and debated. So the following items, 12.1, does anyone want to pull that one out? Councillor Becker. 12.2. 12.3, the annual review of confidential resolutions to council. 12.4, meetings of the CEO Performance Development Review Committee. Yes.
Yeah,
and 12.5 minutes of the Strategic Planning and Development Policies Committee meeting. That one as well? Yeah, okay. So on block, we have items 12.2, council resolution update, and 12.3. Can I have someone move that way, please? Councillor Standard, thank you. No debate. Someone second. Councillor Nguyen, thank you. All those in favour? That's against, it's carried unanimously. Thank you. So we'll move to 12.1, Merrill Monthly Activity Report. Councillor Rebecca, pull that out. Would you like to move it?
I'd like to just do a correction.
Would you like to move it first?
I'll move it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay.
Okay, over to you.
Yeah, it was just, obviously everybody is not here for this meeting. However, there was just a meeting with Louise Cooper and myself. The mayor was actually unable to attend that meeting. That's just a correction. I attended with Director John Pierce, and it was about the new previous experience. And
okay.
I'm sure we'll get a follow-up meeting with the mayor.
Okay, so we can make that correction. Thank you, Councillor. Someone to second Mayor's report. Councillor Standard, thank you.
Oh, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't worry.
Don't want to put words in your mouth.
I thought I'd moved it from home.
No movements from you. That came out wrong, didn't it? Oh, sorry.
Awesome.
Ah, dear. Anyone else want to talk about this fantastic report? If not, Councillor Becker, would you like to sum up? All those in favour, go to the vote. Those against it, it's carried unanimously. Thank you. 12.4, meetings of the CEO Performance Development Review Committee. Councillor Becker, you put this one out as well.
Yeah, I just
Thank you. I'll take it as moved.
Excellent. Yeah, so obviously I've been on the committee for a few years, but I just maybe through the chair to the chair, but the mayor's like here.
I can pretend.
Could you pretend? Okay, just for the elected members that weren't there, is there anything from the meeting that is coming to us in weeks to come Right, is there
Yes, so the consultant is currently undertaking zero performance review, and I think everyone has had an opportunity to be part of that process, and then a report will be coming to council.
it'll be the next?
I think it'll be in December.
Okay,
There's a
so that's
further
why-
meeting on the seventh of
Yeah.
December, which will also might get the
Might
minutes
get
to
it
the
to 12th,
12th.
yeah, so the 7th of December is the next meeting which is next Tuesday.
Thursday.
Next Thursday, and you start with a T. And then hopefully that'll come to the 12th of December council meeting, but it's pretty tight in between. So it's not the end of the committee in terms of information coming back to the council.
That's all I wanted to know.
Yeah,
Thank you
okay.
for that.
Someone to second, please. Thank you, councillor Wynn. Anyone else who should speak to it? If not, I'll go back to councillor Becker. Although I'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Those against, it's carried unanimously. Thank you. And then the last one that was pulled out was 12.5 again from councillor Becker.
Yeah, I'll move it.
Thank you.
To discuss it. So again, sometimes if it's in the committee, it's nice to move it to give other elected members a bit of an overview. So this one was in regards to a change slated for driveway crossovers. It was quite a thorough report put together in regards to the possible effect of those changes. Just things like trees and curvy colours, and also the effects on our street with removing a lot of on-street parking to this go through. So I commend the defendant report that this particular committee takes action on behalf of the council. So this is just the minutes. So just knowing that it was gone through thoroughly, and we certainly asked it. Yeah, as always, we try to keep the amenity of our city as best as possible and protect our tree canopy and protect our industry.
Thank you, councillor. Good summary. Someone to second. Councillor Nguyen, thank you. Like to speak to it? No. Anyone else like to speak to this motion? If not, back to councillor Becker to sum up. No, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. We'll now go to item 13, council member reports and briefings. Are there any council reports and briefings? Councillor Stanton.
Well, have a go. I think everyone at the table ended up at the Spring Fair this year. What a fantastic event. The wind was a little bit problematic, but I think the team did a great job as part of that. The one thing I noticed was that the place was impeccably clean the next day. Is it Justin, the team leader? Amazing work, amazing work. I drove past on the evening, I had to go up the road, and it was just, it was almost all gone then, and I walked the dog the next day and it was all gone. There wasn't a scrap, not a scrap of anything on the ground. It was just absolutely perfect. Great event, beautifully managed, and beautifully tidied up afterwards. The other thing I did was that CEO and I were guests of the Adelaide 500. We went as representing the mayor, and we had a wonderful time. We managed to avoid talking to pretty much everyone. And
That is not true.
Is that Minister, please?
no, it was fantastic. It was really good. It was CEO's first time at the event, and I'm sure he'll be going back. It's a wonderful facility. I noted, I went last year as the guest of the mayor last year, and they had a very rushed preparation, and things were a little bit raggedy around the corners. This year it was perfect. It's good. They've really upped the game. It was the best. I've been a few times in various capacities there, and it was one of the best organised things I've been to. They really have got it together. The other thing I did over the past month is I crossed Howard Street on a brand new tram ramp. And I have to thank the director, Sandalina, for making that happen. I'm sure the people of Broadview are going to thank him as well. They're able to get their prams, wheelchairs and whatever they want safely across Howard Street. It was remarkably, it was one of my things that I wanted to get done in my term of council, and I managed to bring it in just under the first year. So thank you to the director and his team for getting that happening.
Thank you, councillor. Sorry to hear about your wind problem, councillor Becker.
Yeah, This is a very good report, but, yeah, I attended the AGM, of the Residents Association and Conflict Local Environment Group. And, hearing the good work that they do through the year. I also had the, good fortune to find out about the Adelaide Miniature Steam Railway Society at Railway Park and Day on Sunday. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Discovered that it's actually they're the group that run it, celebrating 50 years. And I was going to ask through the chair what the process is for getting the mayor to write a letter of congratulations.
I'm sure if you were to ask me now, I can pass it on to the mayor and we can make sure that happens.
That would be.
I forgot one. I went to the Patong Open Day. And they had a wonderful turnout and it was beautiful day.
Thank you. Did you talk to anyone?
I did.
Okay.
I couldn't avoid it.
Just checking.
Councillor Nelson.
Yeah, I did, in my mind through the mail this morning, it's a little bit late, so I'm happy to go through it, I had like 10 items there, but I'm sure you'll find it in the minutes.
We'll make sure they're recorded in the minutes. Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else? Councillor Barnett?
Yes, on the, yes, I attended the, Church of Greening, one of our newest, groups. That, volunteers have now been formed under, Rail Care. And we had our first cleanup with Rail Care really does support its volunteers really well. The Dudley Park Rail Care and volunteers through the Prospect Blair Active Lions Club have been going for quite some years. So this is our newest one, looking after Ovingham Railway Station. So we had a couple of families with their children, as well as the adults, and cleaned up graffiti around there, did some plantings of where there were some gaps in plantings, and collected about 2.5 gar bags full of some various litter and things down there. So that was we all enjoyed doing that, and I quite the walkthrough through our newly acquired property, 142 Main North Road. I was just commenting, Director John Pearce on, drove past there today with all the plantings that are happening out there, so it all looks clean, tidy as well. So that's great. And I also attended the AGMs of Prospect Residents Association and Prospect Local Environment Group and Prospect Local History Group and Friends of the Library.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other member reports or briefings? I just want to mention quickly, I had a conversation with the owner of Rose Garden Tire on Churchill Road. They're really struggling after COVID. So if you want to support a great local business, head down there and get some great tire food. Motions on notice, we have one. Councillor Nguyen, would you like to move your motion?
Yes, I'd like to move my motion. Yeah, so we discussed this at the workshop back in May. And I think we're just really keen on getting some information and maybe having some EV stations installed in the area, considering we're supposed to be a smart city. So yeah, definitely want to get some information and have something brought back to us.
Thank you. It was remiss of me not to mention the motion is about electric vehicle charging stations, and it's on page 433 of your pack. Someone to second the motion, Councillor Barnett.
Yes, I thanked Councillor Chinwe for bringing this to us, and I think there are a lot of good points raised in that, and so I look forward to it being supported. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Becker.
Yes, I thank Councillor and Councillor Barnett for bringing this motion. I think, we've spoken about it even when Mark was on council last time. And if you actually look at a map of the inner metro area, we seem to be the only one that doesn't have charging stations. So that's kind of a bit disappointing. So I think this is really focuses, that we, as an elected member body, would like the opportunity to happen in the area. Understanding that it is a tender process, but just a point of clarification, and I might ask through the chair, there are some live projects we have. So we are obviously, doing some work down at, the White Station Devonport Terrace, now doing some work at Broadview. So maybe just through the chair to the director, a clarification on the Broadview car parking area adjacent to the hub. Is there a possibility to install them there with the right infrastructure without significant cost?
CEO?
Through the deputy mayor. I think the budget will be the challenge. Mr. Delaney, are there any plans or is there any budget that you can foresee that would enable that to happen during the current project?
From a contingency perspective, we're right at the limit, so we don't have any capacity to install a charging station. In terms of the actual infrastructure to come out of the switchboard, which look at that, there is this brick paving between the switchboard is like a great position, there's brick paving between there and a guarding bed to get to an adjacent car park, so we retrofit it very easily in the future. In terms of the contract.
All right, so thank you. So that was basically pretty wide for a charging station, and I think certainly the trade-off with some of these charging stations is not necessarily our cost, but there might be advertising associated. I feel like our bus shelters, and we do have bus shelters in that area that offer advertising as a trade-off for us and the ratepayer paying for them. So I'm pleased to hear that it wouldn't be a significant cost. Yeah, I'd like to see what happens in the future.
Thank you, councillor Stanton and councillor Nelson.
I think this is a wonderful thing, and I think it gives staff an open slather on blue sky thinking. Ideas at this stage of the thing are absolutely free. Have as many as you can come up with. I mean, if that means rather than just doing the traditional popper charging station on the corner where we think maybe we can move forward and think, okay, are there businesses who would benefit from a charging station, such as hairdressers, places where you go in for an hour, so you can pop in for an hour, plug your car in, get a top up, gyms, other retail outlets. Is there some way that we can not necessarily subsidise, but there might be businesses who go, I would love to have one, but I don't know the process of going about it. So use a bit of blue sky thinking, where else can we put them? What little places can we dot them around a place? And if they're with businesses, maybe we go and approach them and try and help them through the process of whatever red tape or whatever education needs to happen, so that we can be the facilitators of this rather than actually just doing it all ourselves. But I encourage staff when they put this report together and put the workshop together, think to the moon. Just be creative. I mean, we are a little bit behind on this, as Councillor DeBacker said. When we built this building, the idea was to have a couple of chargers in there, and maybe we were a little bit ahead of the curve, which kind of happens in this council. We tend to think a little bit, beyond our means sometimes, and we missed out on having those in here. But we can play catch up. We just have to be a little bit more creative. Ideas at this stage are next to free. What we do with them after that starts to cost money, but please just take this as a license for some blue sky thinking.
Thank you, councillor. Councillor Nelson.
I think it's a great initiative. I did mention to Councillor Nguyen that I did have some communications with the director back in May. Sent them a lead. I had a meeting with ICE Engineering who had secured the contract through the RAA. We were doing $12 million worth of EV charging stations across metropolitan Adelaide, and they were to install them for free. They just had to looking for council to put their hand up. So I sent that lead through. I don't know what happened, anything else, but there was certainly a lot of these actions that are happening around the state that we need to be active on. So yeah, very happy to support this.
Thank you. Councillor Nguyen.
Thank you to Councillor Nguyen. In the last term, we spoke about this, and I think I remember a workshop actually mapping out, where the different stations are, and it was so sad that, we didn't have one in Prospect, and given that, we're a smart city, it was really disappointing. I'm really glad that you're bringing this to the table. Just going back on our community and our plan, sustainability is something that we heard from our community members, and, this is an initiative that leads to that. So I'm really looking forward to the workshop and, explore different options, what we can do, so that, you know, let's see let's see what can come out of this, because, you know, it could encourage people to have more vehicles, you know, on it, we've got two people in our council with these vehicles, but, you know, it doesn't mean that it will encourage people to, you know, think about, okay, there are charging stations around the city, so really commend it. So thank you for bringing it to the table.
Thank you. Councillor
Let's support a workshop. I think a lot of ideas can sort of be thrown around, and I think the one positive of lagging behind in perhaps moving into something is, you know, others have approached all these issues, problems, ways of doing things first, and it's local. I'm sure there's other councils of organisations, REA. We've got more to tap into, people that are actually living that experience of, you know, putting in these charges. So I think, you know, I'm not sure when we would have one, but I think if we, you know, if it came after a period of getting some of this information, and I think a workshop would be good to sort of work out ways around how it would work.
Thank you. Anyone else? Just from the chair, thank you, Councillor Wynne, for bringing this to us. I think it is a fantastic motion. I think to Councillor Stanton's point, we were probably a little bit ahead of the curve when we talked about this last time, you know, probably 5 or 6 years ago. They weren't common. The infrastructure was very different to what it is now. I'll just encourage the director in 2B of the motion. It talks about discussions held with infrastructure providers. It would be great to get some advice through this process around Broadview. I think that's a really good opportunity. And I understand, similar to Councillor Nelson, that some of these could be available to us at no cost. Broadview is just waiting to have that opportunity there, I think. So it'd be good to make sure that's included as we have the discussion early next year. But I certainly commend the motion as well. Anyone that hasn't spoken that would like to? If not, go back to Councillor Wynne. Thank you.
I'd also like to thank Councillor De Backer for helping me put this together and put this forward. And as Councillor Nelson, I also contacted Jolt, which is a charging station that I use, and I find it very, very user friendly. And it's great to know that they provide it free. And like Councillor De Backer mentioned, if they use it for advertising, so that's their way. So I'm sure if we look into all the options available, find that we can probably get most of these for free, and then we can identify all the locations we would find it most useful, as Councillor Sanders said, in places where people are waiting, going to the groceries, you know, that, oh, yeah, I can go there and charge my car for half an hour. That will give me so much kilometers. And what was great with Jolt is they give users 17 kilowatts free every day. So you can go charge your car for free.
I'll just make a note of that. Thank you.
Support the motion.
Thank you very much. I'll now take it to a vote. All those in favour? Those against? It's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Questions without notice. We have nil. Confidential items. We have nil. And now declare, somewhat surprisingly, the meeting closed at 8:23. Thank you all very much.
What happens when, that's what happens when you're organised.
Because I lost the bet.
You buy a meter 2 hours.
I wonder. That's right.
So the time of these longer than we.
Thank you.
Where we expect a lot of it. It wasn't a.
Yeah.
But we didn't.
All the reports